Hi friends, welcome to this session on Theories of Second Language Acquisition, Constructivism. Constructivism is a school of thought which originated as a part of cognitive revolution, an intellectual movement in the 1950s. Constructivist theories were developed as a response to behaviorist theories which stated that learning is a stimulus-response phenomenon. Instead, constructivist theories considered learning as a process that requires self-regulation and the development of conceptual structures through reflection and abstraction. The learners construct their knowledge themselves through interaction with each other on the basis of previous experiences. The process of learning is active rather than passive. Main theorists. John Dewey is considered as the philosophical founder of this approach. Bruner and Piaget are considered the chief theorists among the cognitive constructivists, while Vygotsky is the major theorist among the social constructivists. Let us be familiar with each of them and their perspectives. John Dewey. John Dewey was an American philosopher, psychologist and educational reformer. His ideas have high influence in education. Dewey advocated for the education to be grounded in real-life experiences. For this, he proposed a method of directed living. In directed living, students would engage in real-world practical workshops. They would demonstrate their knowledge through creativity and collaboration. Students should be provided with opportunities to think from themselves and articulate their thoughts. Democracy and Education, 1916. The cognitive constructivists, Jean Piaget and Jerome S. Bruner. Jean Piaget. Jean Piaget was a Swiss clinical psychologist. He is known for his pioneering work in child development. Piaget's theory is fundamental for constructivist education. There are three basic components of Piaget's theory. Schemas. Piaget calls the schemas the basic building block of intelligent behavior. Schemas can be considered as units of knowledge, each relating to one aspect of the world, including objects, actions, and abstract concepts. Schemas enable us to form a mental representation of the world. Constructivism assumes that mental structures are created from earlier structures, not directly from environmental information. Explaining the internal and individual constructions and growth of knowledge, Piaget defined three essential components, namely equilibration, assimilation, and accommodation. Assimilation. Assimilation is using an existing schema to deal with a new object or situation. Accommodation. This happens when the existing schema does not work and need to be changed to deal with a new object or situation. Equilibration. Equilibrium occurs when a child's schemas can deal with most information through assimilation. An unpleasant state of disequilibrium occurs when new information cannot be fitted into existing schemas. Equilibration is the force which drives the learning process, as we do not like to be frustrated and will seek to restore balance by mastering the new challenge. Once the new information is acquired, the process of assimilation with the new schema will continue until the next time we need to make an adjustment to it. Piaget proposed 4 stages of cognitive development which reflect the increasing sophistication of children's thought. Sensory motor stage, birth to age 2. Main achievement during this stage is object permanence, knowing that an object still exists even if it is hidden. It requires the ability to form a mental representation of the object. Pre-operational stage, from age 2 to age 7. During this stage, young children are able to think about things symbolically. This is the ability to make one thing, a word or an object stand for something other than itself. Concrete operational stage, from age 7 to age 11. This stage marks the beginning of logical or operational thought. This means the child can work things out internally in their head. Formal operational stage, age 11 plus, adolescence and adulthood. During this time, people develop the ability to think about abstract concepts and logically test hypotheses. According to Piaget, children are born with a very basic mental structure, genetically inherited and evolved, on which all subsequent learning and knowledge is based. The concept of readiness is very important, as Piaget's theory is based upon biological maturation and stages. Piaget argues that children should be taught certain concepts until they have reached the appropriate stage of cognitive development. He asserts that assimilation and accommodation require an active learner and that problem-solving skills cannot be taught, they must be discovered. Bruner's discovery learning. Jerome S. Bruner was an American psychologist who made significant contributions to human cognitive psychology and cognitive learning theory in educational psychology. Jerome Bruner supports the cognitive constructivism based on Piaget. Bruner also has the same thinking about cognitive constructivism, that it focuses on how the individual processes information and relates new information to information already in the mind. The theoretical framework of Bruner is that learning is an active process in which learners construct new ideas or concepts based on their current or past knowledge. In his research on cognitive development of children, Jerome Bruner proposed 3 modes of representation: enactive representation action-based, iconic representation image-based, symbolic representation language-based. Enactive. This appears first. It involves encoding action-based information and storing it in our memory. For example, in the form of movements as a muscle memory. A baby might remember the action of shaking a rattle. The child represents past events through motor responses. Many adults can perform a variety of motor tasks, typing, sewing a shirt, operating a lawnmower, that they would find difficult to describe in iconic, picture or symbolic word form. Iconic. This is the stage where information is stored visually in the form of images, a mental picture in the mind's eye. This may explain why, when we are learning a new subject, it is often helpful to have diagrams or illustrations to accompany verbal information. Symbolic. This is where information is stored in the form of a code or symbol, such as language. This is the most adaptable form of representation, for actions and images have a fixed relation to that which they represent. Symbols are flexible in that they can be manipulated, ordered, classified, etc. So, the user isn't constrained by actions or images. In the symbolic stage, knowledge is stored primarily as words, mathematical symbols, or in other symbol systems. The focus of Jerome Bruner in cognitivist constructivism is in instruction. The instructor should try and encourage students to discover principles by themselves. The instructor and the student should engage in active learning. There are 3 principles of instruction from Jerome Bruner. Instruction must be concerned with the experience and the context that make the students willing and able to learn. Instruction must be structured so that it can be easily grasped by the students. Instruction should be designed to facilitate extrapolation or fill in the gaps. Bruner's constructivist theory suggests that it is better to follow a progression from enactive to iconic to symbolic representation when faced with new materials while learning. Bruner's work also suggests that a learner, even for a very young age, is capable of learning any material so long as the instruction is organized appropriately. This is in sharp contrast to the beliefs of Piaget and other stage theorists. According to cognitive constructivists, a teacher should understand cognitive development. Teachers will benefit when they understand at what levels their students are functioning. all students in a class should not be expected to operate at the same level. Keep students active. Piaget discerned passive learning. Children need rich environments that allow for active exploration and hands-on activities. This arrangement facilitates active construction of knowledge. Create incongruity. Development occurs only when environmental inputs do not match students' cognitive structures. Material should not be readily assimilated but not too difficult to preclude accommodation. Incongruity also can be created by allowing students to solve problems and arrive at wrong answers. It is not necessary that the learners should always succeed. Teacher feedback indicating incorrect answers can promote disequilibrium. The learners need to work upon it to arrive at equilibrium. Provide social interaction. Social environment is a key source for cognitive development. Activities that provide social interactions are useful. Developing the willingness to accept and appreciate others' different points of view can help children become less egocentric. The social constructivist Lev Semenovich Vygotsky. Vygotsky was born in Russia in 1896. He accepted Piaget's claim that learners respond not to external stimuli but to their interpretation of those stimuli. But he argued that cognitivists such as Piaget had overlooked the essentially social nature of language and had failed to understand that learning is a collaborative process. Vygotsky's theory stresses the interaction of interpersonal, cultural, historical and individual factors as the key to human development. Interactions with persons in the environment stimulate developmental processes and foster cognitive growth. Vygotsky's theory highlighted the point that learning and development cannot be dissociated from their context. For him, language and the conceptual schemes that are transmitted by means of language are essentially social phenomena. He believed that knowledge is not simply constructed, it is co-constructed. The zone of proximal development. Vygotsky believed that learning takes place within the zone of proximal development. In this, students can, with the help from adults or children who are more advanced, master concepts and ideas that they cannot understand on their own. This model has two developmental levels. The level of actual development, it is the point the learner has already reached and can solve problem independently. The level of potential development, it is the point the learner is capable of reaching under the guidance of teachers or in collaboration with peers. The ZPD is the level at which learning takes place. It comprises cognitive structures that are still in the process of maturing, but which can only mature under the guidance or in collaboration with others. The ZPD represents the amount of learning possible by a student given the proper instructional conditions. In the ZPD, a teacher and learner, adult or child, tutor, tutee, model or observer, master or apprentice, expert or novice work together on a task that the learner could not perform independently because of the difficulty level. Some of the key points of this theory are: social constructivism upholds the importance of social interactions in learning. In a classroom teaching learning process, the teacher must provide instructional scaffolding for helping students acquire cognitive mediators. She needs to organize reciprocal teaching, ensure peer collaboration and arrange for apprenticeships where novices work closely with experts in the work-related activities. There are some principles of constructivism that must be paid attention in applying this theory in teaching learning process. Knowledge is actively constructed by the individual. Learning is both an individual and a social process. Learning is a self-regulated process. Learning is an organizational process that enables people to make sense of their world. Cognition serves the organization of the experiential world, not the ontological reality. Truth as viable, not valid. Reality represents an interpretation. Learning is a socially situated activity that is enhanced in meaningful contexts. Language plays an essential role in learning. Thinking takes place in communication. Motivation is a key component in learning. Basic characteristics of constructivist learning environments. Constructivism is student-centered rather than teacher-centered, in which teacher acts as a facilitator and is based on interests, general and specific abilities, attitudes, achievement, aspirations and motivations of students. This approach offers flexibility, motivation, adaptation, creativity and versatility for the teacher and the students. Constructivism is based on the premise that cognition is the result of mental construction and explains how people acquire knowledge and learn. Constructivism's central idea is that human learning is constructed and that learners build new knowledge upon the foundation of previous learning. Constructivist methodology believes that the learners construct new understandings using what they already know. TAM lists the following 4 basic characteristics of constructivist learning environments, which must be considered when implementing constructivist instructional strategies. Knowledge will be shared between teachers and students. Teachers and students will share authority. The teacher's role is one of a facilitator or guide. Learning groups will consist of small number of heterogeneous students. Pedagogical goals of constructivist learning environments. Hornbein summarizes the 7 pedagogical goals of constructivist learning environments as: to provide experience with the knowledge construction process. Students determine how they will learn. To provide experience in and appreciation for multiple perspectives, evaluation of alternative solutions. To embed learning in realistic contexts, authentic tasks. To encourage ownership and a voice in the learning process, student-centered learning. To embed learning in a social experience, collaboration. To encourage the use of multiple modes of representation, video, audio, text, etc. To encourage awareness of the knowledge construction process, reflection, metacognition. Benefits of constructivism. Children learn more and enjoy learning more when they are actively involved rather than passive listeners. Education works best when it concentrates on thinking and understanding rather than on rote memorization. Constructivism concentrates on learning how to think and understand. Constructivist learning is transferable. In constructivist classrooms, students create organizing principles that they can take with them to other learning situations. Constructivism gives students ownership of what they learn, since learning is based on students' question and explorations, and often the students have a hand in designing the assessments as well. Constructivist assessment engage the students' initiatives and personal investments in their journals, research reports, physical models and artistic representations. Engaging the creative instincts develops students' abilities to express knowledge through a variety of ways. The students are also more likely to retain and transfer the new knowledge to real life. By grounding learning activities in an authentic real-world context, constructivism stimulates and engages students. Students in constructivist classrooms learn to question things and to apply their natural curiosity to the world. Constructivism promotes social and communication skills by creating a classroom environment that emphasizes collaboration and exchange of ideas. Students must learn how to articulate their ideas clearly as well as to collaborate on tasks effectively by sharing in group projects. Students must therefore exchange ideas and so must learn to negotiate with others and to evaluate their contribution in a socially acceptable manner. This is essential for success in the real world, since they will always be exposed to a variety of experience in which they will have to cooperate and navigate among the ideas of others. Implications of constructivism for teaching and learning. According to constructivism, learning is an active process. Constructivism requires a teacher to act as a facilitator whose main function is to help students become active participants in their learning and make meaningful connections between prior knowledge, new knowledge, and the processes involved in learning. A constructivist teacher encourages and accepts students' autonomy and initiative, use a wide variety of materials and encourage students to use them. She inquires about students' understanding of concepts before sharing her own understanding of those concepts and encourage students to engage in dialogue with the teacher and with one another. She prompts student inquiry by asking thoughtful, open-ended questions and encourages students to ask questions to each other and seek elaboration of their initial responses. Constructivism primarily is a synthesis of ideas from philosophy, sociology, psychology, and education. The essential ingredients of constructivist instruction are active involvement of learner and challenging thought-provoking experiences. Constructivism contrasts with conditioning theories that stresses the influence of the environment on person. It is student-centered and gave more stress to contextualized knowledge. It is based on beliefs, previous knowledge, values, and self-concept, and deals with how an individual constructs his understanding of the world around him. Constructivism affirms that children make sense of their environments and construct reality based on their capabilities. These basic concepts develop into more sophisticated views with experiences which lead to the development of the individual. Now, let us summarize this session. This module discusses the constructivist theory and its importance in learning. Theories of major constructivists, Jean Piaget, Jerome S. Bruner, and Vygotsky are looked into. The principles of constructivism, benefits of constructivism, pedagogical goals and characteristics of constructivist learning environment and its implication in process of teaching and learning are also dealt with. Before we attend the next session, please try to answer the given questions. What are the features of a language class designed in constructivist approach? Explain the role of teacher and learner in the class. Here are some books for your further references. Towards a Theory of Instruction by Jerome Bruner, Harvard University Press, Cambridge. Going Beyond the Information Given by Jerome Bruner, Norton, New York. Educational Psychology, Windows on Classrooms by Egan and Kauchek, Printers Hall. Thank you for watching this session. See you next time. Until then, goodbye.